I'm going to share my screen now, and I have a presentation on the topic. So it's reconciling aging and body image. And I'm working in the healing. There were two tracks, healing and leadership, and I'm working in the healing one, around healing internal schisms and collective trauma across gender-based oppression, in this case specifically women. And as women, we're faced with two forms of oppression, ageism and sexism. We're going to look at the intersection and see how we can start to change things. And as you said, just speaking the truth is already the beginning of making a change. This topic interests me and always has, because as I mentioned, I've been working with eating disorders for about 40 years now, and the whole issue around body image. And so as I've gotten older, Saturday I'll be 71. So as I've gotten older and seen and experienced what happens as you age, including not being able to get a paying job, just being discriminated against, people saying, hello, young lady, which is incredibly condescending, that you really start, or you're invisible. I mean, I can get into the elevator in my building in the morning and say good morning and nobody answers. So you start to kind of disappear. And I've been interested certainly in how society supports this and what it does in terms of our own self-image. And certainly how there are several industries that really need this to happen to keep us engaged. So both terms, ageism and sexism, came into our vocabulary around 1969, which isn't surprising. The 60s here in Europe, in England, France, was certainly turbulent times. We were involved in the Vietnam War. There was a lot of protesting, and it was the second wave of feminism. So it's not surprising that within the same year, both terms were coined. Ageism is created by Robert Butler, who's a psychiatrist, is defined as a combination of prejudicial attitudes towards older people, old age, and aging itself, discriminatory practices against olders, and institutional practices and policies that perpetuate stereotypes against them. And then there's the meetup between ageism and sexism, and I'll get to sexism in a minute. To keep women dissatisfied is monetizable. It makes money for big industries. And we're, quote, being sold a bill of goods and paying the price, both in our wallets and in diminished confidence in our bodies as a never-ending source of pleasure for ourselves. And that's Ashton Applewhite, who writes a lot about aging in general. She wrote a book called This Chair Rocks, which is a really good book about how to try and do something about the ageist attitudes. AARP, which no longer calls itself the American Association for Retired Persons because it starts at age 50, and ideally those of us who want to continue working are not retired at age 50. But there's been so much, there's been this attitude that olders or seniors don't use technology, that we don't know how to use this. Now, I did need a little bit of Muskan's help when we started, but I basically did the PowerPoint myself. But there is this attitude about it. So they did a survey, quite a major survey, and found that, of course, older people know how to use technology. And I think that if we did this survey again today with the pandemic, that even more people, more older people over the age of 50, people over the age of 80, are using technology because it's been the only way that we can stay in touch and communicate with family members, loved ones. So there's definitely this false belief that we don't know how to use technology. Somebody my age said to me recently, I was talking about wanting to run some groups for older women. And she was like, well, how are you going to do it? They don't know technology. And I was like, you and I are sitting on Zoom. I mean, what are you talking about? And that's completely false. And I said, I'd be happy to send her the research that shows how it is. Sexism, as I'm sure you all know, is prejudice or discrimination based on one's sex or gender. Sexism can affect anyone, but primarily it affects women and girls. and it's been linked to stereotypes and gender roles, and may include the belief that one sex or gender is intrinsically superior to another. And sexism leads to feelings of worthlessness, self-censorship, changes in behavior, and a deterioration in health. And I don't know a woman who has not experienced this in many of its forms, whether it's work or sexually or just walking down the street and having somebody whistle at you. It's rampant and seems like it's to a lot of people, no big deal. It's a big deal. Here I just put some information from the Council of European Human Rights Channel, because it happens everywhere. Women journalists have been confronted with verbal abuse, and they've been confronted with much more, as we've heard in certain stories. We spend twice as much time as men on unpaid housework. Often there's the second shift, that after we work a full day, we come home and have to work another 6 to 8 hours with the family in the house. Men represent 75% of news sources. Girls as young as 16 to 18 have reported that they've been victims or seen the use of sexist language, and we know it goes on and on. It may seem benign to some people, but clearly violence sometimes starts with a joke, and individual acts of sexism may seem benign, but they're not, creating fear, insecurity, and eventually leading to acceptance against women and girls. I'm stuck. I wanted to just, yeah, that's right. Touch on the pandemic's effect on women, because I think women have been most affected in terms of the pandemic and being at home. So many women have left the job force or lost their jobs because they've needed to stay home to take care of children, while often their husbands, who earn more money, or their partners go to work. And this is really creating a huge problem in terms of women in work and getting back into the workforce. If there's no daycare or schools closed, it makes it very hard to be able to get back to work. Someone's got to take care of the kids. One of the terrible side effects has been the significant increase in domestic violence. While women have been forced to be home during the pandemic, and those who are abused have no real way to get out of it. They can't leave the house, they can't make a phone call to get help. I know certainly here in the US, the figures have just been terrible in trying to figure out ways to help these women get out of the situation that they're in. It's very difficult. With aging and body image, I mean, certainly we all know that there are differences as we age at any age in terms of what happens in our body. Here, certainly, the whole industry of dieting keeps women, I think, in certainly most Western cultures, trying to lose weight. 71% are always currently trying to lose weight. Almost 80% felt that their weight played a moderate to the most important role in their self-esteem. So this becomes internalized sexism as well, that we start to feel that there's something wrong with us, and certainly with our bodies. And it's not just women. Girls as young as in third grade, who may be 8, 9 years old, up to about 10 years old, they want to be thinner, and 60% of sixth graders, which is about 11 years old, have already dieted, which is terrible, leading to, of course, eating disorders. One place where I think we really have seen the impact of what Western images, media, and television has played is in Fiji. Before 1995, there was no television in Fiji. And women who were a little bit bigger were revered because it meant they had money, they could get food. These were women who were successful. In 1995, television was introduced to Fiji. It was mainly American television. And within 3 years, eating disorders became rampant. And here were women who did not feel prior to this that there was something wrong with their bodies, all of a sudden started engaging in bulimic behavior, in self-induced vomiting. 29% of those women were at risk for a clinical eating disorder. 69% had dieted within those 3 years, and 74% felt too fat. It's no surprise, it's how most of us felt watching all those shows like Dynasty and Friends and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The images that we were shown, and certainly these women who took this within 3 years as being the ideal. I just threw this in because it just shows it's 58% of women say one or more of these have impacted their experience at work. And number 1 is age, and number 3 is body shape or size, and number 4 is gender. So as these 3 things cross, it really puts women, here we start 45, 50 plus, of having a real problem getting a job if they've taken a gap to stay home and watch the kids, or take care of aging parents, or themselves may have had an illness, that to get back into the workforce, especially when they may have been out of it for a few years and not learning the new technology, is very difficult. There are many organizations that have now started to help these women to either get back into returnships, or to learn a lot of the techniques that they're going to need in new jobs. But meanwhile, it's over 50 is very hard to get a job for a woman, and to get equal pay. I mean, at this point here in the US, women still get paid 80 cents to the dollar. This has not changed, and it doesn't look like it's changing for many, many years. These are just a few things that happen as we age. We know what happens to our musculoskeletal system. Our eyes aren't working the way they should. Our hair turns gray and thin. There's a natural weight gain. Estrogen now moves. It moves right to the midriff, where we have this spare tire. And so I think women start to feel even worse as they get older about their bodies and how they can't really do much about it, which is natural. It's what happens as we get older. And these three industries are so targeted at women and at keeping us hooked into it and feeling bad about ourselves and looking for the next best thing, the next silver bullet. Clearly, because of what these industries are valued at, it is very important to keep us hooked in. The diet industry alone is at close to $200 billion. We are constantly being told that it's that we can't stick to the diet. It's not that there's something wrong with the diet. And so there's just this constant new diets hitting the market constantly. Cosmetic surgery, because of course we need to change how we look, and the fashion industry. One of the things that happened during the pandemic was what they've been calling the Zoom boom in cosmetic surgery, that so many women, from looking at themselves all day on a screen, have felt dissatisfied, very critical of how they look. And so they've been doing things like changing their nose. That was, I think, number 1, facelifts, taking their upper eyes, the eyelid surgery, because it's easy enough to put yourself on video, say, I'm here, but I'm not feeling well today, and not have to be seen until the surgery is over. So this has jumped. What they're projecting by 2025 is actually, at this moment, quite low because of what's been going on in the cosmetic surgery industry. So how can we change this? I mean, we're caught in our cultures in terms of how women are seen, how we work really hard to be visible, to be active, to call it out. we can support organizations that fight both ageism and sexism. There are many of them. I belong to Engendered Bodies, which is one that works on calling out what's going on in terms of the body positivity, body neutrality, um, and how everybody's body is just fine and it's hers. We should use gender neutral language, try and not, I mean, gender neutral across the board at this point for just everybody. Call out people when their language is ageist or sexist, and there are constant microaggressions. When I mentioned this being called young lady, I was at a meeting at a restaurant with a group of people. I was the oldest, and the waiter had gone around the table, took everybody's orders, just took the orders, and he came to me and he was like, "And what would you like, young lady?" And I said to him, "That is incredibly condescending." And everyone went, "Oh, Leslie." Like, that's what it is. That's terrible. So, but it's not nice to say that, right? We as women shouldn't say anything. But everyone's like, "How could you say that?" Support diversity and inclusion, encourage intergenerational workplaces. I think this is really important to start to have the generations come together. There's an organization here called Circle, which partners baby boomers with millennials to really become the CIRKEL, to really see how you could mentor and help each other. The first woman that I was partnered with was trying to decide what she wanted to do in terms of her career, and was in marketing for one of the major newspapers, but was playing around with the idea of counseling. And I suggested that she check out social work, and she's now starting social work school in September. She said to me, since I was kind of making a change in terms of a pivot in what I was doing, she said, "What I can do for you is build you a new website." So she built me a PowerPoint and she built me a new website for free. But I think that that's really important, is to be able to start talking to each other, because there's so much that just, nobody wants to be with old people. And it's interesting. I was thinking when my generation was young, back in the late 60s, late 60s, we used to say, "Don't trust anyone over 30." That was one of our taglines. And now when we hear "Okay, boomer," it makes us mad. But I'm sure our parents' generation mad to say, "Don't trust parents, just anybody over 30." So there's always this kind of built-in antagonism between generations. We just need to all meet and share. They can teach us so much, we can teach them so much. And I think that will also help to change certainly ageism as well as sexism, as we also work with other genders around it. So I just wanted to open it up and hear what your thoughts and experiences have been, and
Yeah.
and hear from you.
Could I start, Leslie?
Please.
Yeah. First of all, I'm very sorry about what you have been exposed to about that young lady thing, and I think the um, the moment things get complicated for any of us is when we freeze. I think we need to develop a mechanism to reflect back, because as women we are always told to be nice. It means that oppression, we learned oppression to keep silent, and that energy got stuck in us. So we all need to, I think, teach the next generation, for all the people who are oppressed, not only women,
Yeah.
indigenous people, to
Yes.
reflect back, to reverse back. Silence is the horrible thing, I think, and I think you did the best thing by just making your point. He should be wise not to call you like that.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And I
He will
hope
remember that next time.
right, that he doesn't do that to the next
Yeah.
person.
If he does it, there will be other women maybe responding. He will learn. If all the women would gather and reflect back, nobody can. If we erase the victimhood from this world, there
Yeah.
won't be any narcissistic people. That's it. So we have to work with the victims. That's what I believe in. Uh, I don't care about the really narcissistic people or the bulliers. They can't exist when victimhood is erased. So Regarding to aging, it's a very interesting topic for me, and also body image. I'm 45 years old, and first half of my life, which I consider like the 40 until the age of 40, I spent my life hating my body. So,
Mm-hmm.
and also, I mean, I have gray hair since the age of 18, so it's not a sign of aging for me because I was always different. So I spent my life always being different. So I think life sort of taught me in a harsh way in the early ages to love my alone time because I was always the outsider. I never fit in my culture. I didn't fit in any culture actually. I'm from
Mm-hmm.
Turkey, but I was always different from the culture. When I go to Europe, I'm still different. Wherever I go, but then I learned to embrace that because we are all looking for differentiator factor, right? In marketing to be remembered. And then I discovered spirituality. And I'm loving that I'm getting older because I discovered that I was an old soul.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I didn't fit. And I discovered that soul doesn't have a, I mean, we have numerical three-dimensional ages, but then we have uh, young souls in old bodies. But then I have some clients who are 20, 21 years old. They're old souls. They have the wisdom. If I bring them, if I invite them here, they would be in this level of discussion. They already know because their souls are old. They know. So I feel like the aging concept is shifting. And the more we start, I think, talking to each other, because your pain, when I look at you, you're talking about the pain of aging. But when I look at you, I don't see a number in you. I'm curious about what you are going to share with us, the wisdom. That's what I see in you. But we can't, of course, get into the eyes of the filters of people. And we can't know what each and every person is going to think about us. But I feel like the people who are going to change this world are the people who don't fit actually.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you don't fit, you automatically have to develop another mechanism. And in order to live, you learn to look at life differently.
Mm-hmm.
So the people who are comfortable in the status quo will never change, but they will have to change. So I feel like we need to shift our focuses because before I was very angry. I was so upset with the people who I was victimizing myself before, and I was giving so much power to people where, I received bad behavior. But then I realized that I'm giving that power to them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not my focus anymore. I don't care about them. As long as personally I can create a revolution in myself, the outside world cannot really affect me because I create my own reality. So imagine if we pass along this wisdom and if people, especially women, especially transgenders, the vulnerable groups, if uh, people have access to this kind of wisdom, I feel like personal revolution is going to create revolution. Imagine nobody dyes their hair anymore. What's going to happen to the hair dyeing industry? Collapse. If I'm like, yes, this is my body type, and I love intuition, and I learn about intuitional eating. Nobody has to be, zero size. And if I want to bring out my creativity and I want to do knitting, for example, I don't think that retail industry will be like today and we are trying to look like IKEA furniture. If I'm interested on a soul level, who I am, why I'm here for, if I ask deeper questions, I will have different answers and the outcome will automatically change. So I believe in really personal revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the pain that we have been through happened for a reason. That's how I see my life. The
Yes.
first half of my life was very emotionally, I had a lot of emotional pain and I had depressions. But then now I can put a meaning to it, because now I see why I have experienced those, because I went through them, I learned, and I found ways to get out of them. And now I teach them. So if we all find, I think, meaning in our personal stories from a higher level, we don't need any more healthcare industry either. I worked in healthcare industry for a long time, which I call it sick care industry today. It's not healthcare. It's based on creating sickness and then giving drugs. If we take our power from doctors, from medicine, from retail industry, from cosmetics, from whatever, I feel like we are invincible and they don't want this. But this is going to happen. So
Yeah.
I talked a lot, but
You.
I'm quite passionate about this topic and I just wanted to share. And thank you very much for your
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful. It's just around the gray hair. It's in, I went gray quite a while ago. But what's interesting is with the pandemic, increasingly women did not color their hair. And there's this whole gray renaissance. You see it on like Instagram and places that people, that women are now letting it go natural and finding, one, is healthier for your hair. Two, it saves a lot of money. To get your hair colored in New York is very expensive. And you just feel better. It's great. Although many women still feel that they have to color it to get a job and they have to kind of fudge their age. There's that reality too, unfortunately, that
For
women are
now, for now,
for now. But
for
for
now.
now, women have got to like make some money and and take care of themselves. So yes, it is for now. It will. I do believe also that it will change, and I think whatever's happened in the last year is a setback, but it's not a permanent. I mean, there's been talk about it's a permanent setback. It is not a permanent setback. I can't imagine how women are going to go back into back into being a 1950s housewife. It's just not possible.
Yeah, thank you, Leslie. And I will actually quote Elif from this morning, because she said something that really struck me, and she knows that, is that we are talking about feminine, masculine, young, and she said that we have to link that about superiority and inferiority. And I think you said something also, Leslie, at the beginning. And I think this is so true for age too. Youth is superior to age. And it's not true. It's complementary to your point. So I think you will like this one. I bought this book, Wise Women.
Oh, who did?
Yeah. Joyce Jefferson. Yeah, if you want to know, I can put it in the chat. So this is absolutely wonderful. She photographed women between 60 and 100 years old. And here you have their words of wisdom. For example, she's 95 years old. She says, be yourself. To your point, Elif, you're different. Be yourself. If you have talent, don't neglect it. One of my great life joys was marrying an artist who was my equal. It made my life so much richer than those of most of my friends. So this, before, the wisdom of older people, especially grandmothers and the older women, was respected. And then, to your point, there was a shift, and now it's just like it's so bad to age, and it's terrible. I think we have to go back to this intergenerational support, as you said, and celebrate both. And actually, when you study the brain, we develop the white matter when we age, and we're better at connecting the dots and solving complex problems. And the youth is better at going quick, with the gray matter. So we're complementary, for God's sake.
Exactly. And we all learn so much from each other if we just can kind of, I think that's true, period, across cultures, genders, generations. It's, we end up getting so locked into our group that it's hard to really have any empathy or to see what's going on.
But you know what? What also helps with body image is humor. Because I was extremely thin when I was younger, and of course marked and so on. It was terrible. And then I aged, and menopause and so on. So you put some weight and so on, and okay, I didn't like it and so on. And then it's funny, but I've got a very small face. So if I lose weight, my ass looks better, my belly also, but I look horrible. So I just decided that more people look at my face than my ass, and my husband loves my ass. So I decided that weight was good.
Yeah, I think. Well, I really think it's sad that so many women, as they age, still are so, at any age, but certainly women already 50, 60, 70 are still the plastic surgery, the dieting, doing things that your body, I mean, this is just what happens. It's, accept it, love it, own your body. I think that's one of the big problems, is that it's very hard to own your body because you always see it as something other, that it's not you. I mean, you trash it and you talk terrible to it. And that's something I work on with clients and with groups on trying to change, in terms of how you talk to yourself, how do you embrace yourself? How do you look at yourself naked in the mirror? Just stand there and try dispassionately to look at yourself.
Yeah.
And see what it's gotten us this far. I thank you.
Yeah. I would like to share a internal actually dialogue with a client of mine. He was an esthetician, and I'm an energy healer. So he came to me, and I told him, like, we are just doing the opposite work. Like, he is trying to physically change women to feel better about themselves. And I told him, I'm doing the exact opposite. I'm just, we are sort of, counter industry. I mean, if this is an industry that I'm working in, our philosophies are not matching. But he said, I'm already sick of this concept. But the thing is, like, he started working with me. The first thing he told me was, when I look at your face, I see where you have defects. And I'm like, just hold on. What do you mean by defects? When I look at my face, I see the uniqueness. And in order to come to that state, I spent so much time. And I'm not going to let you speak like that. Because the thing is, words are magic. We have been brainwashed by these words, and this man, he wants to change himself, but he memorized all these scripts, and he sees my face through his lens. And I told him, who defined the ratio, golden ratio? I love the wrinkles. I used to have Botox, by the way, when I was 35. Like, I really totally changed because I hated my body. I was trying to look young. At a young age, I think this is very important. Like, at the young age, I hated my body. Now, I love my body. And the interesting thing is, I mean, when you look at, if you define my body with the industry standards, I'm quite a big woman. But the thing is, my energy changed. And the people that I attracted changed. Before, I was attracting people who were very body conscious, especially men. Yeah. I was always feeling bad about myself because internally I was feeling horrible. If you look at my pictures 10 years ago, you would be like, seriously, like, how come, you can have all this hatred towards your body? But today, I'm older, I'm fatter, but I feel like my aura changed because I do a lot of work in the mirror. I keep on saying, I love you, and I honor my body all the time. And when you do that, magically, your energy changes. And when your energy changes, the people that you attract changes. So I feel like this is really the magical trick. And we are not told these things. People don't teach us. That's why we keep on living in our wounds, and industries are targeting our wounds. Yes. And it's about it's the same with the fertility concept. In London, I went to a fertility fair, and I walked across the booths, all the different industries around fertility, including Chinese medicine experts. When they heard my age, I was 40 back then, they're like, oh my God, you have to hurry. They're giving and injecting the fear of missing out. And I said, I don't care if I have a baby or not. I'm just trying to understand what IVFs, what Chinese medicine offers. They're like, no, but you're running out of time. Somebody has taught these marketing tactics. That's why I'm calling it a sick care industry. It's not a fertility fair.
Yeah.
They call it fertility, but it's like a infertility fair, you know, like if you go there, you would be depressed if you believe what people say. So I feel like we have to be very cautious about this kind of magic of the words. In ancient Egypt, it was really very important, the words that people, they were believing that words were spells. And I think we forgot this. Some mindset was created, and we all have forgotten the power of the words, and we are brainwashed constantly, and we pick on these kind of stuff from the collective, and we create a society of depression.
Yes. I also, talking about in terms of our bodies and changing them, I was taught with eating disorder, to work with eating disorders by Susie Orbach, who wrote the book Fat is a Feminist Issue back in the late 70s. And she's written a whole bunch of books since then. But one of the things she said was that women are trying to change the shape of their lives by changing the shape of their bodies. That really, that has someplace gotten, the connections gotten crossed. And so certainly my work with women is to start to untangle that it's, changing your body is not going to change your life. You got to change your life. But she did some and does incredible work around trying to look at how the fat, what that represents to us as women, and how we just keep rejecting our own bodies. One, it's a psychological issue. Two, it's a cultural issue. It's a societal one that you have to, in my work, I look at it from all these different aspects in terms of working with women and trying to, as you've been saying, let that go. It's very hard, especially when we see images all the time of what women are like. Here in the States, Fabienne, I'm sure if you turn on any TV show, you see the commercials. The only way you see older women are in pharmaceutical commercials. They have Alzheimer's, they need, they've got cancer. It's always, that's where you see older women is, sick. It's awful.
Or it is for these walking bathtubs. The walking bathtubs or the elevator around the stairs. This is where you see older people, to your point.
Yeah. We just beaten over the head with this. My poor husband, he hears me yelling at the TV all the time. He's like, who are you talking to? I'm talking to the commercial. I'm talking to the...
And Leslie, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So when you look at your clients, how is the age correlation between, age correlation and it's linked to the body image? Like, can you say that younger people are more happy and satisfied with their bodies compared to older people? Is there an age dynamic?
I don't think there is. I think the issues may be different. As you get older, you're concerned more about different parts, including things that just get tougher. I mean, I have a terrible arthritic knee. I need to use a cane. So what? At least I can walk. I mean, and so there are a lot of issues around that as you get older, that you can't do what in quite the same way it used to do when you were younger, and then you kind of berate your body for it. Younger people, it's really about if only. I think that's what's changed. I think the fantasy when you're younger is if only I get thin, then X will be different, or I will have a partner, or, you know, something will, that my body will be the thing that makes it different. And so if I just get thin enough, then everything will be solved. And of course, you can get thin enough, and nothing, we all know that nothing is solved. I mean, you're still you. Wherever you go, there you are. But there's always this fantasy and belief. And of course there is. This is what they're told. This is, you know, what you grow up with. Certainly what gets passed down intergenerationally. You know, my own family, my grandmother who worked full time, took time off to have my mother. She was a professional woman, but the most important thing was how she looked. Now, my mother was a professor at Columbia University when women weren't professors. What was the most important thing? Her dieting constantly. To me, the saddest thing was she was 70 when she died. She got lung cancer because she smoked 3 packs a day. And she said to me at the point that she was diagnosed, she said, and I quote, "Fuck it," she said, "I'm now going to eat whatever I want to eat." And I thought, I mean, to me, that was just horrifying, that her whole life was about dieting. And only at the point that she was dying did she say, "I'm going to have whatever I want." And it's just, it's awful. I mean, I raised my daughter in this way of eating with your hunger, stopping when you're full, eating what you want to eat. And I started this when she was about 3, which is when I was being trained by Susie in the Women's Therapy Center Institute. And she does not have an issue with food. But you tell this whole way of working, I sometimes tell it to my clients who have children and they're talking about, they're concerned about the children's weight. And I lend them the book and they're like, I can't just let her choose what she wants to eat. It's a very hard thing to do. But if you do, you grow up eating when you're hungry, what your body tells you want, and that's the end of that. I remember once when my daughter was in school, I got a call and they said, they're saying that Becky had Oreos for breakfast. I'm like, yeah, but that's not good. I'm like, it's okay. This is what she wanted. This morning, she didn't eat these. This morning she wanted Oreos. I said, fine. But it really changes when you make food, and I'm kind of getting into my food spiel here, but you know, that all food is equal. Chocolate, chicken, cauliflower, it's food. And we don't tell our children, hurry up and finish your ice cream so you can have broccoli. I mean, we create these charges against certain foods, you know, that, so you don't just, and then of course, with all the dieting, you don't enjoy food at all, because if you're off a diet, you feel guilty about eating. And if you're on a diet, you're restricting yourself completely. It's just, and I do see that this is not changing. And that is really disturbing to me.
You don't want to start talking food with a French woman, huh?
I know.
No, I'm kidding, because I love food and I'm totally into, like, I live the intuitive eating and so on. And I always say it's not what you eat, it's how you eat. If you love the food, if you respect it, if you enjoy it, if you don't have, listen to your point, Elif, about your body, the satiety, you know when you're full, you know when you don't have to stuff because you're in front of the computer and just gulping, or you are in the subway. When I see people in the subway eating, I'm just like, oh my God, no, please. It's just respecting your body and the food, and yes, intuitive, and everything is good. It's questions of quantity, portions.
Yeah, well, your body really doesn't need as much food. I mean, that's the other thing about diets. They tell you what you should eat, how much you should eat. Go weigh it. This is what you should eat. Takes you further and further away from intuitively knowing what is right for you and what your body wants. And yes, and what your mouth wants. I mean, we get a chance several times a day to pleasure ourselves with food. If we didn't get it right at breakfast, later in the day we'll get it right again. We'll listen more to what we want. And we have another opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and I feel like this needs to be taught very, very early ages to
yes,
children, because I remember my first experiences. I was a very happy child, but then I remember meeting other girls, and I thought that my body was perfect. I was wearing bikinis and I was swimming, but then I started hearing girls making comments, and that was the time when I became conscious about my body, because they were making remarks. Oh my god, this girl is wearing a, I mean, not to me but to other thinner girl, uh, how come she can wear this bikini? She should wear something like a more stretch,
right.
more boring stuff to cover, to hide. So that social pressure gets into you. I mean, I was very happy, but I'm also very empathetic, and I'm HSP, highly sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
So kids are very intuitive. They absorb the unspoken from the collective as well. And I think this is how we start shutting ourselves from ourselves. This is like all the sickness starts from. Like you're like, okay, no, you decide not to have fun anymore. And I feel like today the world is missing women having pleasure, because we learn to survive, but we are here to, I mean, this is very stereotypical as a phrase, but we are here to thrive, and pleasure is the way, joy is the way, but we learn to shut it off at a very early age, and body image is one of them,
Yeah,
in my
absolutely.
experience and what I see in others as well.
No, I agree. It's there's a lot of work. I mean, there is that whole body positivity movement, which is all bodies are fine, whatever body size. And it's I think it's a hard concept if you haven't done some work to get there. Um, there's also talk about body neutrality, which I prefer, because what body neutrality is you just get up and you have your day. There's no good, bad about your body. You don't think about it. You just live your life, eat what you want, do what you want, go where you want. And your body is your body. It's not bad, or it is. And I think the neutrality concept makes a lot of sense. Also hard to get there. I mean, I'm talking like this is easy. None of this is easy.
The trick is, we think that, I mean, this is my personal opinion, we think that we are living in a modern world. We think that this is like the, in the ancient times, it was the stone age, and today is modern. I believe it is the opposite. I believe that we are living in a very low consciousness, because body has all the wisdom. We are just looking at it from a very three-dimensional method. This is done intentionally to disconnect us from the wisdom of the body, because body knows everything. Intuition, subconscious, is everything is in the body. Our body knows.
Yeah.
But when you hate your body, it's so easy to program you. It's so easy to be a victim. So this is
Yes.
intentionally done to vulnerable groups. I think this was after this world wars, this is how the world is designed.
Yeah.
This is the way of capitalism. This is how capitalism won. Disconnect from the bodies, disconnect from the nature, create hierarchies, put male, white, Christian men on the top, indigenous woman at the lower, create this. People feel horrible about themselves. All set, congratulations. Industries are created. So this is how I view.
I agree. Well, our time's about up, and I want to thank you so much. This was a great conversation. It was lovely meeting you all. And Muskan, thank you so much for your help and for being our coordinator for this session. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of the week and all these wonderful sessions. And I'm very grateful for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you to you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So much. Thank you.
Thank you.